The image plane, this transverse spinal cord has been positioned, and I've scaled it and moved it to fit inside the top or superior view. It's going to hide the light or not show the light so that that red line goes away. And let's make the lighting default and the shaders default to try to keep things a little simpler. And with the image plane selected, so I'm going to make sure I have that selected. Okay. I'm going to name it transverse, well, I'll never find that again. And let's come down under the shapes and look for the alpha gain. Middle mouse drag and lower that a little bit so it's easier to see as we position. Okay, now create a cylinder. It will help. I'm going to go back to my 4 view for a second so I have an idea how big to make this. Now I'm working with 3 vertebrae because I'm anticipating at some point I'm going to need all 3, but really in this movie at this point you could get away with just making a spinal nerve that was above and below the only vertebra you've assembled so far. So it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So I'm going to make that 6 units high, my cylinder. I'm going to use 12 axis divisions, which means the number of faces on the height of it, if you will. I'll leave the height, since we made the height 6, let's double that in terms of the number of divisions. So I'll put 1 line every half of these units. I don't have any divisions on the cap. That's because I'm going to eliminate the cap pretty quickly, and I'm going to make it about half a unit. So if I create that, not too far off in terms of my size, I'm going to raise it up so I can be above and below these areas. And I think what I do now, I've got all of my vertebral column, the 3 vertebrae and the disc, all inside this one layer, so I can hide them when I want to. I'm going to switch my layout here to 2 panes side by side so I can see both the perspective window and the top view. I'm going to do most of the modeling at the top, so the perspective is pretty much a just a backup. So let's make the top X-ray for a second so we can scale the cylinder appropriately. Position it. Scale this a little more accurately here. I don't want to get too tight because probably only smooth it. So those are those 12. That's what I meant by the 12 axes, those long ones there. So I'm going to get rid of the top. But I'm not going to need that right now. And I'm going to get rid of the bottom. What I'm trying to do is build basically a unit that represents the duplicate. It's not a word. I want to build something that I can duplicate over and over again and create the whole spinal cord from that common denominator instead of doing this multiple times. So with the object selected, I'm going to freeze its transformations, center its pivot, and I think that's already done. And I'm going to freeze its transformation. I'm sorry, I meant to say delete history, freeze transformations. You notice now it's all zeroed out. And then I'm going to just use this mesh mirror tool here and I'm going to cut the geometry in the negative x direction. Okay, so what I've done now is essentially made two halves. And you can just see I just eliminated one half of that tube. Okay. Now because I don't want to move the image plane, I've made it a layer, and I'm going to lock it as a reference so I don't accidentally move it. So I want to now create this one portion here of the model. It's a little more difficult to see. Let's see, the anterior median fissure comes down into the middle of the anterior surface and it runs the length. So I need to get that working there. So I can't really do much with just this point. I need more points. So what I'm going to do is use the modeling tool. I'm going to use the multi-cut. And I'm going to just draw a line right about there. Now what that did, because I'm using the multi-cut in that top view, see it created vertices all the way down that whole column wherever it intersected an edge. So now what I can do is grab this, oops, sorry, the multi-cut tool here, and grab that vertex and move it down, and I can move this one over so I can kind of create that that valley or gully, whatever you want to call it, that fissure. Let's call it what it is. Okay, now I'd like to go, or I need to go towards the median here, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut and make another set of vertices. Then I'm going to grab by dragging the mouse so that I get all the points. Again, I'm going to do see what I've done when I dragged, I got all the points there. So now as I'm positioning this, now this set of vertices I really want to have right on the midline there. So I'm going to hold down the letter X and drag them there. This set I'd like to have a little perpendicular to it. I think if I come back out a little bit, you'll see that this is a little, maybe just a little wide. So I'll take those two sets, move them that way. I feel like this needs to be up. All right, now the one thing you'll notice with this type of reference, it's not perfectly symmetrical because it's a organic object. It's not a mechanical device. So nothing that we would call symmetrical is literally symmetrical when it's a natural shape. I'm just going to move the smooth surfaces around a little bit. This face, if you look real carefully, you see there is a little bit of a indentation there. I'm certainly not going to try to do all of those, but let's just do one more, the cut tool, just to kind of give a little more of a, I know this is relatively schematic, but a little more of a suggestion that there is that subtle posterior sulcus, if you will. Important to make sure that this column of vertices is on that x-axis. So again, hold down the X and move, you notice it went snap there. So now I have 1/2 of the entire length, and you're going to see eventually I'm really going to work that down to a smaller size. I didn't really need to make it that tall because all I really need is 1 unit. So let's stop the tape here and then we'll go into that next phase.